Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 876. Art of Diverting Trouble. Amon! Klein's pupils constricted, and although he looked normal on the surface, he tensed up significantly with his heart churning with waves of alarm. Although he had kept using Amon to scare the grandpa in Leonard's body, as well as the Marauder Pathway demigod beside Hazel, he was only using the name. He never expected that this blasphemer, a king of angels, would arrive in Backlund so quickly. He was even looking for the organization that believed in the fool. In fact, although it's surprising, it's understandable. With Backlund having an angel and demigod of the Marauder Pathway, it's only a matter of time before Amon arrives based on the law of beyonder characteristics convergence. The only problem is that he has been searching for something in the forsaken land of the gods for so many years, so it's unlikely he would suddenly abandon his search. Besides, his mausoleum in the outskirts of Backlund has been destroyed by the machinery hive mind, making it difficult for him to come and go as he pleases. Therefore, this isn't his main body, but an avatar? An avatar that exists in the northern continent? An angel of the Marauder Pathway should be good at using worms of time to create avatars. Amon must be stronger than them. Klein's thoughts raced as fast as lightning as he gradually came to a certain conclusion. At times, he even suspected that the mythical creature of the Marauder Pathway was a bunch of worms of time that combined together via a certain method. As a Marauder Pathway's king of angels before the cataclysm, Amon definitely knows what the name, the Fool, means and can detect the corresponding aura. He might even wish to steal control over the Grey Fog. He came here for the Fool this time. This is really going to be a headache. After his initial shock, Klein gradually composed himself. What he was most afraid of now was that he would end up encountering blasphemer Amon because of the law of beyonder characteristics convergence. And Amon was clearly able to detect his uniqueness. When that happens, it might not even cause a stir before the so-called the Fool had to consider if he could be resurrected. After all, this was a king of angels, an existence just second to a true god. Furthermore, the Marauder Pathway was always known for their deceit and concealment. Amon wasn't necessarily afraid to take action, even in Backlund. Perhaps stealing the fate of others was a strength of his. From the looks of it, temporarily leaving Backlund to head for West Balam might not be a bad choice. Anyway, the biggest problem stems from myself. If I had already advanced and become a bizarro sorcerer, I'll be able to hide the Grey Fog's aura. Even if I encounter Amon, I won't have to be afraid of exposing anything. Klein drew a silent breath as he once again felt a sense of urgency. He needed to quickly push open the door to Sequence 4, change his existence, and become a demigod. For this, he needed to work harder, be it making another marionette, acting at a deeper level to speed up his digestion, or gathering the corresponding ingredients. Phew! Backlund really is a terrifying place. If Ouroboros hasn't left, or if he has already returned, just the ones I know would number 5 angels, including 2 kings of angels. I haven't included the royal family and military who use Backlund as their base. I haven't included the underground evil spirit whose whereabouts are unknown. A former king of angels that fused with the wills of 2 other angels. If the Rose School of Thought's abomination Soot comes in pursuit of Gehrman Sparrow, that would really be a bustle. This would be nothing compared to the demigod-level battle outside Byam City. Klein looked at the sketch drawn by Ian as he vaguely shook his head. Okay, got it. He shook his head. To Ian and Merrick, he had said so because he didn't know the monocled man, but in fact, he was expressing his exasperation. I'll have to leave. I'll reply to you before midnight. Klein took off his hat and bowed, slowly walking out of the billiard room. He then teleported back to 160 Barrio Clun Street from a secluded alley outside the Bravehearts bar. Inside his master bedroom, the first thing he considered wasn't Miss Sharon's and Merrick's request, but on how he was to deal with the problems that Amon brought with him. In such aspects, being rather experienced, he quickly came up with an idea. It was to find something for Amon to do to draw his attention away. As for what that was, it was definitely something he found irresistible, something that he would definitely be interested in. For example, an angel from the Marauder pathway, Palaz Zoroast. Perhaps this was key to Amon's ability to become a Sequence Zero true god. It would be something far more important than finding the organization that believed in the fool. Of course, Klein definitely wouldn't directly sell out Leonard's grandpa, because he had yet to show any ill intent to date. His thoughts were simple. It was to inform this matter to Palaz Zoroast that Amon was already in Backland. He wanted to see the reaction of the angel who had survived since the fourth epoch. Then, he would follow up based on the situation. If that grandpa is helpless against Amon, who's likely only an avatar, he can only get Leonard to use the excuse of a mission to leave Backland to hide from Amon. As for me, I'll have to bring forward my trip to West Balam. I'll just say that it has something important to do with my network. I'll secretly teleport back for the placenta blood when Snake of Fate will Septon is born. Klein arrived at a decision as he took out a piece of paper and wrote, "Amon has arrived." Folding the letter and putting it into an envelope, Klein took out the adventurer's harmonica and blew hard. When Rionette Tinker appeared, he took out a gold coin from his pocket and pressed it on the envelope. This was one of the 10 gold coins that he had gotten Richardson to exchange for him in the afternoon. It was to maintain his image of Dwayne Dante as to being equal to someone at the level of Palaz Zoroast. Even when Klein informed Leonard Mitchell of the method of contact, he didn't inform him that the payment of a gold coin was needed. This shows that face is something you buy with money. As Klein sighed, he said to Miss Messenger, who was wearing a dark, complicated dress, "Send the letter to 7 Pinster Street. Oh, just throw it into the mailbox. There's no need to send it to the addressee." As he wasn't certain of Palaz Zoroast's true intentions and character, Klein wished to hide more of his trump cards in front of him. Therefore, before Leonard wrote to Klein Moretti, he had no plans on letting the poet see Miss Messenger. The blonde, red-eyed head in Rionette Tinker's left hand was raised up as it sucked the letter and gold coin into its mouth. However, she didn't immediately disappear. Instead, she floated at her spot, looking at Klein silently with all 8 eyes. "What's wrong?" Klein was taken aback before coming up with a guess. He asked with an odd expression, "You don't know where 7 Pinster Street is?" Only then did he recall that a messenger's delivery of letters depended on their mysticism-based location. It was based on the person they contracted with and people they had formerly delivered letters to. Therefore, once the latter left a detectable range, the messenger would not be able to find them. Upon hearing Klein's question, 2 of Rionette Tinker's heads nodded in unison, indicating that she didn't know. Klein immediately coughed lightly, pulled out the drawer, and took out a map of Backland. He then used a fountain pen to circle out North Borough. Following that, he circled Pinster Street. "When you're here, you will see the unit number on the buildings." Klein folded the map and handed it over. The head in Rionette Tinker's right hand immediately opened its mouth and bit down on the map. Then, her figure phased away and entered the spirit world. Upon seeing this, Klein heaved a sigh of relief. He turned and walked out of his master bedroom and headed for the half-open room with the balcony to read the papers and magazines. Late into the night, he took 4 steps counterclockwise before soaking into the bathtub and entering the mysterious space above the gray fog. "Helping Sharon and Merrick obtain the Tutensis II mummy is dangerous." Klein took off the topaz pendant on his left wrist and let it hang to perform a divination. This time, the spirit pendulum rotated clockwise with a weak amplitude and relatively slow frequency. This means that the danger isn't too great. Furthermore, even if it's a trap targeted at Miss Sharon and Merrick, there's no need for the present me to be too afraid. Klein beckoned with his hand as he made a translucent miniature black crystal card fly to him. This was the Fate Siphon charm. Klein had used a worm of time to create a demigod-level high-level charm. Right on the heels of that, he summoned Creeping Hunger and the Sea God's Scepter. Wearing the former, he picked up the latter and recorded Lightning Storm and Hurricane. The mutated and uprated Creeping Hunger could use Mr. X's soul and characteristic to record 2 demigod-level beyonder powers that didn't exceed Sequence 3. With this, Klein no longer needed to borrow Lamino's travels anymore. Furthermore, it was more convenient. After all, flipping a spell book affected his use of Death Knell and the Fate Siphon charm, unless he grew another 2 hands. After making his preparations, Klein returned to the real world, pulled out a piece of paper, and wrote simply: exact time, location, and plan. At 1 a.m., Leonard, who had slept 2 hours, woke up energetically. He prepared to leave 7 Pinster Street and head for the St. Samuel Cathedral's basement. Just as he stepped out the door, he suddenly had his spiritual intuition trigger before he subconsciously cast his gaze to the side. A look of puzzlement flashed in his eyes as he walked over and opened the mailbox. During dinner, he had cleared the newspapers, bills, and letters inside. Typically, there wouldn't be any items in the mailbox until daybreak. After all, the mailman would have clocked off work and returned home. However, at this moment, there was a thin letter waiting silently at the bottom of the mailbox. "Old man, you didn't inform me of a new letter," Leonard said softly as he picked up the letter. The slightly aged voice in his mind replied, "The person didn't enter." Leonard knew that old man's senses were limited to his body, hence, he didn't speak further. He tore open the envelope and took out the letter, flicking it flat. The letter was mostly empty with just one short line. "Amon has arrived. Amon has arrived." Leonard's pupils dilated immediately. At the same time, he heard the parasite in him gasp for the first time.